Do that. Okay. So today we're talking about listings. And there is a little video that they've asked me to watch, so we'll just do that quickly. And then we're going to just, I sort of think that it's better to have a conversation. That's how I feel that today should be run. You can just sort of talk about my best practices that I do, and I'm going to share with you all of my steps. And we can learn from each other that way, and maybe you can share and make my listing presentation even better. So this is the first video that we're going to watch here with Gene Rivers. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Gene Rivers. He's fantastic. He's from Florida. He does a lot of the teachings at Family Reunion and elsewhere. And he's been to Toronto a bunch of times. He teaches the business planning clinic, which I highly recommend. It's usually held yearly. So that was recent, like a couple months ago. So find out from anybody at the front when it's going to be again, and I would suggest doing it because it really sets you up for success for your year, and like, if you have a plan, then you know where you're going and what you're doing. So anyway, he's dynamic. He's a lot of fun to be in a room with for a couple hours. So we'll listen to
Hi, my name is Gene Rivers, and I'm here today to tell you how to develop your listing skills to a very high level, and after you've done that, you'll be able to go in and take over market share. Number one, the best source for listing leads is from your sphere and past client list. The fact is, the people you know, the people are going to be moving, whether it's at church, school, work, friends, relatives. Focus on making sure they understand you're in the listing business. Create a pre-listing package that you would give every seller, but rename it your guide to selling homes successfully in your market. And then give that to people in your database that you know have influence, that collateral materials that they can give to their friends and refer you. Step two, focus on an area, product, or price range. When you develop mastery of a product or an area, you will much more quickly succeed in those areas. And in that area or in that product or price range, focus on the FSBOs in that area, the expireds in that area, door knock in that area, geographic farm in that area, and I'm talking a fairly tight area, so that the people in that area will really, really identify with you as someone who can help them sell property for top dollar with low hassle in a short amount of time. Now we're at number three. Everyone today that's looking at hiring an agent, whether it's a referral, even a past client, or a stranger who's got your name somehow, they're going to check you out on the web. So you need to make sure that your website is confident, that you've got basic, powerful content in there, and specifically that on the landing page, the very opening page, there is a direct offering to a seller. Find out what your home is worth, get a guide to selling your home. But if you don't do that, you're going to miss opportunities because people will get your name, check your website out, and go, I don't think so. I've seen a lot better sites. Fix your website with a database that you are working on a consistent basis. And with a tight focus, you build your reputation. If you're visible, you will find you will take over more and more listings, and in a very short amount of time, 12 to 24 months, you will own that market. That's how you take market share.
Great. No, pretty straightforward. FSBOs, if you're not familiar with that, means for sale by owner. We don't have tons of that in our market. It's really more of an American thing. We do have some, but it's not to the same level that the Americans do. And then also expired. Of course we have expired, but not those many. So let's go to our next page here. So he was talking about the pre-listing package, so we'll get to that in a second. But do you guys have that page or any material? If you don't, I'll read it out. It's the pre-qualifying the seller. Okay? So we'll just go through this page. It's page number 14 of the course materials, if you have that. Do you guys have the course materials? You're able to download it on it? Yeah? Okay. Okay. So essentially, this is like a really good tool to use. And you can decide if you're, personally, if you're going to want to use all of the questions, and if you're going to use some of them, if you're going to replace some of them with something else. So the reason why we do this is because it gets us set up for success for when we actually go on the listing appointment. Okay? So let's just read through them. We'll talk to them, understand why we asked them, and we'll go from there, okay? So the first one is, how did you hear about me? Why do you think you want to ask that question? Any ideas?
See if your marketing is working.
Marketing?
That's what I was gonna say, so you can see where, you should focus more money and energy into.
You can find out where that business is coming to you. From what it's coming, is it from putting my sign on the lawn? Is it my website, a Facebook boost that I did, or is it a referral, right? Because it could very well be a referral. If it's a referral, what are you doing that afternoon after you've learned that it's a referral?
Send them thank you.
That's right, immediately. Do not even wait till the next day. You get your notebook out, your card, you write a note, thank you note, you stick a little gift card in there, like $10 to Starbucks. And I'm telling you, whether you get that listing or not in the end, because who knows how many people they're interviewing and what's happening, you still acknowledge the fact that you got a referral. It's really important that we take care of our referrals, okay? So that's exactly what we're doing. We're finding out where it came from so that we can understand how we're getting business. Second question is, where are you moving? So we would ask this question, how come? What do you think? Any ideas?
Probably to understand motivation, if they have a place to go, or if not, maybe something that you could help them with.
Yep, totally. Same thing, right? It can tell us oh, you haven't found another place to move yet. You're going to need help buying something too. Awesome. I'm going to sell your place and I'm going to help you buy. Right?
Yep.
That's why you want to ask that question. Because they might not think. Some people don't know that they could use the same agent or how it all works. So it's really up to us to educate them. But that's why we want to ask that question for sure. So then we say, what's motivating you to move there? And we ask that because we kind of want to know, are you moving from the east end to the west end because you've got a sick parent who needs help, or you're getting a divorce, or you're getting married. And the thing about real estate is that it can be very personal, and it's all about getting to know more about the reasons why this person needs to move, so that you can best service them, but then you can also help navigate that as you're going through. So the more information you have, the more armed you are, the better you're going to do with those questions. How soon do you have to be there? So that's good to know, because you want to know, okay, that means we need to sell the house at the end of this month so that we can buy you a new place and you're moving in at the same time. Or we've got 6 months here, we're not in a rush. So you just want to kind of get an idea of timeline so that you can map that out as well. If we sell your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? If yes, what would the problem be? This one I've never actually asked, personally. Have you?
Yeah.
And
I do it all the time because I always say, do you have a plan B? Like if we
Right.
sell your house and you get a really good price, but they want to close in 15 days, like,
right,
where are you
where are you going to go? Yeah. So,
So just so we get some more information out of them.
yeah, exactly. And then you can find out a little bit more about, okay, well, are we going to need to lease you something in the middle, in the
Exactly.
interim? Do we do a
Airbnb.
lease back on the agreement?
Exactly.
Yeah, it helps you understand, okay, maybe they don't have family in the city that they can stay with, right? So they need to sell
Some people
and
don't
buy.
think about it.
Yep.
Some people don't think about it.
Great. What would happen if your home did not sell? So again, it kind of goes back to that, what if we don't sell your house, what does that mean for you personally, financially? If you have bought something else, is that going to be a problem? Are you going to be able to close on that other property? All of those things. So you want to ask that question because they'll give you, again, more information.
My immediate instinct to that question is that's not a great one to put out in the air when I'm trying to earn the listing.
Yeah. Again, you go with your gut.
Right,
What
right.
works for you. I think each person you're speaking with will be different too. You might be able to say, well, I don't know this person at all. I'm going to ask more questions than I
Right.
normally would. Or I know this person pretty well. We've been friends for a while. I can kind of shoot the shit and get my answers that way.
Right.
But I understand what you mean. Yeah. The next one is a great question. How much do you want to list your home for? It's like the golden question. It tells you right away what your clients think their home is worth. Now, we all know that oftentimes people think their home is worth more than it actually is, and then some people are quite reasonable or they don't know, right? So, but it's a good place for you to start, because then you sort of know where their expectations are, and then it can help you manage that expectation when you're sitting across the table from them going through your CMA. Okay? How much do you own the property? This is a good question because you want to know if there's equity in the house and if they're going to have money to be able to close. And what else, Kat? Like, why else would we ask that question?
I don't typically ask that because it's really personal. People tend to open about their finance, oddly, people tell me all their finances, a week later.
Yeah.
But I do ask, I just say, I kind of apologize for asking a bit, but then I say, if we have to know if we can treat the mortgage as if it's clear, right?
Right.
Because you put treat as clear, do you have a mortgage? I don't ask how much.
Right.
But then I will, depending, because I learned this the very hard way, I always say, do you have any liens on your property? Because
That happened
to
once.
me badly
Okay.
once.
Yep.
And again, people will usually say no.
And
I
this
mean,
question
yeah.
I find too, maybe you don't ask it on the phone before you've met them. Maybe you save that to when you're sitting across from each other, you're talking more dollars, right?
Yeah.
So again, choosing which ones you feel good about asking them.
I find that in this, if you approach it, I'll have a list of questions and I'll go down how old is your furnace? By the way, do you have liens on the property? It's very
It's part of the
clinical.
checklist, yeah.
Yeah, then it's not so bad, it's not being nosy and whatever, it's very clinical.
Right, good.
I really find that question,
Yeah.
the reason why I usually ask for that is to give them a seller buyer next sheet so that they know exactly what they're going to end up with.
Sure.
And that's a great thing to do.
Great value add.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be able to know that number, right? It's an important number to know, so that's great. Good. I'll be sending you a packet of information. Will you take a few minutes to review it? We'll talk about the pre-listing package in a minute. That's what we're asking them to review, because the reason why I like to give that to them ahead of time is because you don't want to be sitting at the table and their heads buried in this pile of paperwork, when really you want to be having a conversation, you want to get to more facts about getting the house on the market. So that's sort of the pre-stuff that they can read, and then you can talk to it while you're there. Well, that's at least how I do it. I'm sharing with you today what I do, and then we can share it with each other what other people do as well, okay? Do you have any questions for me before we meet? That's always a good one, because they're often, oh yes, okay, well what about this, and how does that work, and blah, 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 blah. So it's good to get all of those out of the way so that again, when you're meeting with them, you can get to the focus of the meeting, listing the house, right? And lastly, will all of the decision makers be there when we meet? And that's an important one, because you don't want to go and then they say, oh, okay, well, I'll have to get back to you. My husband's not available, couldn't be here today, or thanks for presenting to me. Can you come back in a week and present to my husband as well? Because what does that do? It wastes our time. So it's always good to say, listen, let's meet when everybody can be available. What works for you? Okay? So, pre-listing package. I believe that there is one included in our materials. This is what ours looks like. It's called, I think it's even called a guide to selling your home in the materials, but a guide to selling your home. So what I do is when I've set the appointment, I write a handwritten note and I drop that off with my pre-listing packet to their house. I just put it in their mailbox and I let them know that it's been dropped off, and if they have a moment to review it before our meeting, that'd be great. Oftentimes people don't review it, they don't, they're busy doing other things. I also find that if it's a repeat client or somebody that I've sold to, worked with before, I skip this step altogether. Just don't even bother giving it. They already know how I work, they know what I do, and they just want to get together, talk about the market, figure out what we're going to list the house for, and then come up with a plan on timeline, right? So, but this is it's a good tool to have, and it's professional looking. People like seeing that, and have you seen the course materials online? Yeah, so there is one there, and what they say to do is to go through it and make it work for you and what you're doing. You can use the wording in it, you can change it up. This is my doctored, I just literally edited it, and it's being printed right now, so as you can see there's lots of marks on these pages, but it goes through a little bit of everything. It talks about getting started, who we are, the listing process, staging, what happens when you're presented with an offer, and how we manage that, and then closing costs, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's all in the packet that they get before your meeting. Okay, does anybody else use a pre-listing package? Yeah? Yeah, great. And where did you create yours from?
Mine was Mike Ferry.
Yeah, great.
Just the contents of it, and then I just put it together myself.
Okay, perfect.
Not as nice as yours, but.
I hired a graphic designer. I couldn't do that on my own. Yeah, but it's nice. It's nice to have.
Yeah.
And what we do is we match everything up. So like the logos everywhere and same colors, and everything just looks really professional when you're sitting across from them and giving it to them to read. Okay, cool. What do you use, Kat? Where'd you get yours?
I use a variety of yours.
Oh yeah, good. I'm happy to send mine, by the way, if you want
At
it.
the time it was Aidman's, but
Yeah.
and so like Julie Kinnear, there's a couple ideas in there from Kinnear, Trish.
Yep.
Like basically I asked all the mega agents to send me their stuff, and then
Yeah.
just kind of throw it all together.
Awesome. And then
Yeah,
mishmash it to be
mishmash it together.
your thing. Yeah, great. Does your team use a pre-listing package?
Yes, Sotheby's provides one for us.
Okay.
And then,
So same thing, how we're provided with one, and then you just doctor it up to be.
yeah, I think they give us a new one every a little while.
Yeah.
And then you can just add whatever pages you want to the back. So we have like mortgage information, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Great. Good. Awesome.
You know what else I quit, just that's what I think is really valuable, is I print off the, working with a realtor, listing agreement, the ones on MLS where it explains it all.
Agreement which is deal in plain language.
In the plain language one, and I just like print them off and I stick them in my folder with that.
Well, we're gonna
package.
get to that, Kat.
I was
You're
very
jumping
excited.
ahead a little bit. No, that's okay. I do the same thing, yeah. Okay, so we have a little video we're gonna watch here. Let me just make sure that I didn't miss anything that I just talked about there. Okay, yeah. So the next one we're gonna watch, his name is Josh Bath, and he is Canadian. He's from Vancouver, where we're going tomorrow. And he's gonna talk to us a little bit about his listing presentation.
Hi, I'm Josh Bath from Vancouver, Canada. I'm with Keller Williams for 8 years and been selling real estate for 18 years. Now I'm going to walk you through my listing presentation, and it's a 3-step process. The first part is preparation, the second part is presentation, and the third part is follow-up. A lot of my listings come by way of referral and repeat. And so when the call comes in and they want me to come over and list their home, I have a conversation about what their needs are. What exactly is it you're looking to do? Are you moving up? Are you moving down? I have them tell me exactly what the reasons are that they're selling for. I get a real sense of what direction that they want to go. One of the things that we've done to make my appointment setting a little easier is we've time blocked. We follow what Gary says. He says time block everything that you do. And we've time blocked our slots in advance for listing appointments. Every day, Monday to Friday, we have a slot available at 4 o'clock and a second slot available at 5:30. So I've got a potential of 10 listing appointments Monday to Friday. That makes
That
my
looks good,
life a lot
doesn't it?
easier because I'm able to time block my lead generation first thing in the morning and not have my day so loose and scattered so I'm trying to scramble on where to put a listing appointment. What we do now in our team is we've decided to go paperless with our evaluations, our CMAs. So instead of printing off paper, what we'll do is we'll take it on the computer and convert it to PDF, mark it up with a highlighter from there on the computer, and then create an email from that. Email that package off to our client prior to going out to their home to list it. What I do when I go on a listing presentation is I meet the sellers at the door, and I have them take me on a tour of the property. During that time, I'm actually asking them to tell me again, to recap again, what their motivation is for selling. So I'm getting them more comfortable than moving out of their house is what I'm doing. That usually takes about 5 minutes. And when we're done there, we transition right over to the kitchen table. We'll talk about the market, the evaluation itself, and that in itself is about 15 minutes. Once we've agreed upon a price that we're going to list at, we'll sign a listing contract. They sign the initial 3-page contract, They sign the property disclosure statement, and they sign the working with a realtor brochure. Outside of those 3 documents, that's it. I send in my measuring company to come in and measure the home. I send in my stager who's going to contact them to come in and stage the home. And once she's done, then I send in a photographer and take the photos of the home. We always do a follow-up with them as well, just to say, how did that go? What was that experience like for you? Keeps them feeling like they're in control and very much a part of the process, and it lets them know that we're paying attention to every detail on their listing prior to it even being on the market. One of the expectations that I set with the sellers is that I phone them twice a week on purpose. So I set their expectation for me to phone them on Monday mornings with what's called a Monday morning update, where I review everything that's happened for their home over the past weekend with them. The second call that I set them up for to expect is on Fridays, and that's a Friday morning market update. And what I've set them up for is that I'm going to talk to them about any new listings that have hit the market, any expires that have come off the market, and any solds that have actually just happened since that past week. They also know that on Friday, we're going to be talking about the numbers. Does the current list price that we're at right now still make sense in relation to the latest listings or the most current solds? They know in advance that that conversation could lead to a price reduction, and a lot of times, they bring that on themselves. They say, hey, look, you know what, it looks like we might be a bit high, Josh. Should we bring it down? So it's a natural transition to a price reduction. One of the reasons I choose not to do a pre-listing package is when I'm sitting in front of them, I really want their full focus and attention. I want their attention on me, and I want to be able to ask them questions where they're giving me their full attention and not flipping through a pre-listing package. Most of their questions are going to come straight from their gut, and that's really what I'm looking for. I'm Josh Bath, and I just shared my listing presentation with you, and I wish you all the best with yours.
Thanks, Josh.
Great.
Yeah, it's so true. Like all the questions do normally come from the gut, right? When you're sitting there and you're asking why you're moving and you're getting the motivation and you're learning all of that. And that's really what you want to do, so that throughout the process, you can communicate with them effectively and provide them with the level of service that you know you need to. Everybody's different, and it's really just good to find that out from each individual person. So let's say we've had the initial call. We know that we're going on this appointment. What are we doing between phone call and appointment to prepare ourselves? Anybody have any ideas?
Market data for that locality,
Yeah?
for that neighborhood.
Right? So you're going to do your CMA, you're going to get all your comparables together?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Maybe if you don't know the neighborhood as well, you're going to go and you're going to drive it, and you're going to make sure that you know where all the schools are and what the schools' grades are, Catholic, public, private, whatever. And make sure you know where the churches are, the grocery store, the amenities. Like, you want to be aware of what's going on in the neighborhood, right? Yeah?
Maybe preview a few properties that are on the market.
Yeah, awesome. Like, know what's on the market in the area, know what they have to offer, so that you can speak to them should your client, which they almost always do, bring it up in your meeting, right? Great, yeah. So you just want to really, something that a really big takeaway for me when I was at Family Reunion this year was that a lot of focus was on being the hyper-local agent, like knowing everything so well so that people will always come to you for information. They might even go to your website for the information because they know that you're going to have it there. And just being really, really aware of the neighborhood that you're selling in and knowing what's going on. Because that is important to your clients. They want to know that you know that the street that they live on is very coveted by the neighborhood because of the trees and the deep lots and the school district or whatever it might be, right? So as long as you want to know everything. Okay, so then you learn everything you need to learn about that, and then you're preparing for your listing presentation. So what do you think you're going to bring with you to your listing presentation? What do you bring with you, Joe?
I bring obviously the comparables and the, what you call the pre-listing package.
Okay,
I
yeah.
didn't drop it off at the time.
Okay, but you bring that with you?
Yeah.
Do you go through it with them, or do you ask them to look at it later?
Ask them to look at it later.
Okay,
If they have any questions, whatever.
okay, great.
So,
Yep. What else did you bring?
A little PowerPoint, slideshow type presentation,
Sure. And in
depending
that-
on who the person is up.
Yeah, and then in the presentation, what are you, what kind of information are you putting?
Oh, I just think as a resource to aid in whatever the package is, just
Okay.
something to
Right,
keep
so
the
something
conversation
to look
moving forward.
at. Okay,
Right.
yeah, cool. Anybody else? What you might else you might bring?
Well, it's pre-listing, but referrals,
Yeah,
any words? Or
Yeah.
Your brokerage stats,
yes, because ultimately, what are you selling at a listing presentation?
yourself.
Exactly. So you want to be able to show them that you have the experience, the credibility, and the, that you are the person for the job, basically. So for sure, you can bring that. Kat?
I have a binder of all my marketing material for all my listings.
Yeah,
So like the books and
Yeah.
just the feature sheets and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So I'll just kind of flip through, it's there if they want to look at it, to see the style of like the information.
Yep.
And then I'll usually have a home inspection that I've redacted some things on, just that. I have the listing
Yeah.
paperwork.
That's what I was just asking. I was looking for the listing paperwork, yes. So we're bringing our listing agreement.
With that.
I, in often cases, bring two. I do an exclusive and I do an MLS, because if we're not listing the house for another 3 months, but we're gonna go to work on it, we're gonna have an exclusive listing from that day until the first day of an MLS listing. Okay, so I bring two. I bring the MLS data form, which we have to have everyone sign, and I bring the working with a realtor. Okay, those are the documents that I bring for signing.
I actually do FinTrack too.
I bring the FinTrack
I
with
bring
me,
the FinTrack just to.
and then I often just take a picture of the driver's license and do it later. Okay, and then, yeah,
So, what's the idea behind having an exclusive before the listing? Like,
So-
what are the scenario where clients want to go exclusive for a certain duration and then anyways?
what it means is, it means that you can go to work for them. You can start getting your contractors in, your painter, you can do your home inspection, and get really prepared. And it also protects you, because before MLS date, there's no contract, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's an agreement that you guys are entering in together, so that even in the exclusive period before we hit the market, we are working together, and then we're working together during the MLS period as well. It also allows you to put a coming soon sign on the line. Well, yeah.
Do you know that, let's say you don't do the exclusive, and let's say you sign the listing agreement for MLS for 3 months later.
Mhm.
If they can sell it privately, can't they?
Yeah,
Until up
that's
up
what
to
I'm
that
saying.
point. So
If you don't have the exclusive in place,
Yeah.
they can go ahead and sell it before the MLS period, right? Mhm.
And can they go with other agent as well in that 3
No.
month duration?
No, because they've signed
Okay.
a listing agreement with you. That's
For a
right.
later date, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's something that I learned from Adrian, my sister, and I think it's good practice. So something for you guys to consider too if you don't do that already. Yeah. So I thought I'd just show you some of the stuff that I bring with me. So I always bring it in this little folder, and then I also have another folder for me that I usually pull out a little later. So everything that I need for my listing presentation is essentially in here. And then I take this stuff out and hand it to my client and have my own. So I always make sure to have enough copies of things. So for instance, if I'm sitting with a couple, I'm going to have a copy of everything for each of them and for myself, because it's kind of annoying to look over, or if you're sitting in different spots at the table. That way it's just everybody has a copy of everything. So I bring, so when you're going through the listings and you're doing comparable sold properties, I always bring a copy for them, a copy for me. This is older, it's not going to work, but just to show you. So I always highlight the pertinent information. The sellers are getting it in color, on good paper, client full, and I'm going to have my own on black and white, regular paper, broker full, on the MLS broker client, right? And then they're looking at it, I'm looking at it, and we're going through the comps. I always highlight the important information so that their eyes are going to where they need to go, and they're not like, wait, what are you talking about? Because these sheets are kind of confusing unless you know exactly what you're looking for, right? So when we sit there across the table from each other, I'm able to say, okay, 67 Thompson Ave, it was listed at 1568, it sold for 1570, and it was only on the market for 1 day. It's the same as your house, a 1.5 story detached house, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, da 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 da. And we can go on to the next one. So that way I just find it keeps it really, and what I do on my own is I make little notes. So like Josh, he's sending this ahead of time. I have done that. It depends on my client. Some people want to like go through it each. So if you can't sit, you're sitting there, you're not looking at all the pictures, I just make some notes at the top, like not renovated, needed work, or whatever, so that when they're looking at it, I can speak to it. Side note to all of this. What is a really good practice that we could all probably be better at is going to agent open houses and previewing the homes. Whether we have clients that are looking to buy or sell in that neighborhood at that time or not, when it does come up, you can say, oh yes, I've been through that house and this is how it compares to yours. It's just always better if we can get inside of the house, right? And see it with their own eyes, and then we know exactly. Because sometimes, have you guys noticed a lot of agents are removing pictures now off of MLS after they sell? They're taking down all of the photos of the home and they're leaving one of the exterior front and back. And what they're doing is making it really hard for other agents to do their comps. Does your team take them down?
We don't take them down, but we can actually see it.
I get so mad. There's a few West End agents that whose listings I've seen a lot, and they take it down.
Do they say why? Have you asked them?
I've never asked them.
I
You
don't
know what?
understand it
I
because
might,
it's-
because I know one of the guys.
Why are they doing enough volume that they're pulling comparables from other deals internally or something? How are they? What are they using? If everybody started to do that,
It's a good. I don't understand why they do it. Maybe.
I've done it once because the woman was going through a brutal divorce,
Yeah.
and she didn't want the husband to see the inside of whatever. Anyway, it was
Of her home?
there was something like
So
that.
she had to get the privacy.
There was special circumstance, but I
Yeah.
don't understand because, like, I don't get it. And there's no reason for it
Yeah.
that I could see that would hurt
Mhm.
anyone's business.
Everyone's busy.
Everyone's business.
I do know that at a few of the agents, you can go to their website and they'll have the pictures up there still, but some of them don't even put them back up on the website. They take them down from there as well. So it's kind of shitty. So in other words, we need to get out there and we need to go visit these properties. And it's a good way to get out and meet your colleagues, and it's just a good thing to do. And I'm starting to do more of it again. I was in a good sort of flow, got out of it. Now I'm kind of trying to get back into it again. So let's all try to do that as best. I'm just telling you what I bring, and then I'll sort of tell you how I go through it. I always bring something that I call like setting the stage. So it talks about the house, it talks about the story, like it's a wonderful family home located in sought-after sunny Lee. It's filled with natural light and move-in ready with lovely upgrades. And then I talk about the home, it's detached, 2-story, blah, blah, blah. A little bit about the neighborhood. So this is kind of something that you can include, just something nice that you don't have to speak to every point. I sometimes bring it, I sometimes don't. Again, I very much just weigh it on how well I know the people and whether this is something that they need to see or not. Okay?
So is that sort of some of the meat that you put in the listing? Is that what you mean?
I just take this with me on the listing appointment.
Oh, I see, just an example.
Yeah, I say, so we want to be able to tell the story about your home. And so this is some of the information I know, and we're going to talk further to it as you're gathering more information. Okay? Schools, you want to know the schools. And I always show them a map of the area of which I'm pulling my comparables. Because something that I always discuss with them is that it's really important that we're like comparing apples to apples. Like, I don't care if a really similar house like yours sold over here, for this much money. This is the pocket. This is what we need to focus on as far as sales are concerned. So really, like, making sure you're using the right neighborhood to do your comps. And sometimes it can be a little trickier, like, should I go east or west of that street? So again, drive the neighborhood, understand it if you're not really 100% sure. Okay? So that. And then what I do is I bring something that we call the strategic selling plan. So again, they have it on nice paper in color, and I have it on black and white on just regular paper. So I can talk to it, and I'm not looking over my shoulder. And this is kind of like bullet form some of this stuff. You don't have to talk to each single point under each one, but you can talk to the six points, basically. Strategy, marketing, internet exposure, networking, open houses, and communication. How do you want to be communicated with? And this I give to them because it's not, they don't have to flip through this. It keeps us focused, and it helps me get more information that I need for listing house.
What do you call that?
I call it the strategic selling plan. If anybody wants any of
I'm
this,
sorry,
email them.
strategic.
Strategic selling plan.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I'm happy to email all this stuff to you if you want to see it, and if you want to adapt it to your own business, that's fine. And then, of course, as I said before, the listing docs come in here as well. Okay. What I do is I only bring one of these because you don't want them to just have to sign 1,000,001 pages. And then on my phone, I have something called Scannable, and I scan it right then and there. And I ask them if they want an email to them or if they want the hard copy, and then I just take the email. Okay? So it just makes it so much easier. You don't have to then take it away, scan it, and email it to them. It can be done right then and there. They like that. So like immediately, like you can just say, here, you keep the hard copy. I've got the PDF now. Email it to me.
What's scannable?
Scannable. It's great. It's so easy to use. You literally just hold your phone over it like a picture, and then you can select email it as PDF. It comes straight to you, and you can email it to them as well if they want it. It's great.
How do you do it with separate pages? I mean, you just
One at a time. You go do.
You can keep adding. I use
Do-
GPU
Oh,
scans,
I
it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Just keep adding.
It takes like 2 minutes. It's a really, really handy tool. So I've used it many times on offer nights too. Like if I'm listing, offer's been presented, this is the one that we're accepting. Everybody wants a copy of it. We're not at the office, we're at the house that we've just sold. I scan it right then and there and I email it to everyone. It's a blue,
It's got a hand or it's got the dock?
it's got a butterfly.
It's not a hand, then, it's a butterfly.
Oh, yeah, butterfly. This is what it looks like if you're looking for
No,
it.
it's this.
This is what it looks like.
Yeah, I
Oh,
have,
do you have
I
it?
have I scan it.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that one free, Court?
That one? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's free, and it's so handy. So then anyway, I got all of this stuff,
Everyone else.
whatever they're gonna keep, I keep it in this folder, whatever I'm taking back with me, I put back in my red folder. And in this red folder, this is where I do try to do a lot of things paperless, but sometimes there's going to be paper involved, right? And the one thing that I do really like, and I'm also happy to send this, it's very useful, is the checklist from the very first thing to the very last thing you need to be doing throughout the process of listing. It has, everything on there so that you can say, okay, I need to get this information today, this is when I had that meeting, I need to order for the for sale sign on this day. You just have everything there so that you don't miss any steps along the way. Because as you know, it can get busy, it can be distracting, and things can get forgotten. This helps eliminate that. Of course, you can have the checklist on your computer or your tablet or your iPhone. I do a lot of stuff, as I said, paperless, but this is just like the one thing that I still sort of like because I can make notes on it. Oh, you have an alarm code. Okay, it's just, it's my one little bit of old school. My mother started with that whole concept, so I liked it, and I just decided to continue with it for now. Okay, so let me make sure that I'm keeping us on track here. Talking about what happens when you go on the listing appointment. Why don't we do that sort of like just step by step? How, from the moment you knock on the door till what you do, sit down, whatever. So here, perfect, listing, great, walk through the whole listing presentation. So I do the same thing. Again, it changes depending on whether they're a past client or not. But let's imagine it's somebody that you don't know and you're going to the home for the first time. You walk in, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. If you've got a coat, bag, you're putting it down somewhere, maybe they're hanging your coat for you. And then they often say that the best place to sit and meet and talk is in the kitchen. It's a comfortable place for everyone, it's bright, and there's chairs and countertops so that it's easy to do your signing, which your goal is to do at the end of the meeting, right? So once you drop your stuff, maybe you just say, why don't you take me on a tour of the home, just like Josh did. And while I'm doing that, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at ceilings, I'm looking for cracks, I'm looking for, does that need to be painted? Oh, this house really needs to be cleaned. You're making all your mental checklist notes so that you sort of know what needs to happen in order to get the house ready for sale. Sometimes I'll ask the clients if I can take pictures. Because when I'm referring back, I can say, oh God, did that have room? Oh my God, and then I can just go to my pictures. So just say, are you comfortable with me taking pictures? They're not for anybody else to see but me. I just reference them as I'm preparing for the listing. And they're 9 times, 10 times out of 10, really, like nobody ever said no. Okay? And then you go to the kitchen and you sit down. And so, what do you guys, what do you typically do when you first sit down? Are you jumping right into the comparables? Are you talking about yourself? Like, what are you doing when you're sitting down to present to people you're meeting for the first time?
Review their situation, and a lot of the questions that you just talked about, where's the plan to move to, by when? And then,
yeah, like a recap, like Josh said, like, so on the phone, this is what you told me, just
that's
making
right.
sure the information is still correct.
Right.
Great.
Then I move into the importance of pricing, and then I move into explaining what a CMA is.
Yeah.
The 3 parts to it, active, sold.
Yes. Great.
And what's the purpose of it? Determine the value based on in the eyes of a buyer and in the eyes of an appraiser.
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
And then I go into the CMA, the details of the CMA.
Right, and then give them a sense of what you think the homes were. Okay, cool. Anyone else?
I have never done it,
Yeah.
but I feel like I would ask them how they're feeling about the whole process off the bat, to give them an opportunity to kind of
Yeah.
get some stuff out of their heads,
Yes. Yeah.
and maybe write down notes that I can then make sure I touch on as
Yes.
we get going.
Yeah.
Something
Great.
like that.
Good. For sure. Because the thing is that we always want to get on with it a little bit, and we want to show them everything, but then we forget to stop and listen.
Right.
And ask questions and listen. And that's really where all the value is when your clients share everything with you, then it makes your job so much easier. You don't have to, and have a notebook, write down notes, if you're on the computer, make the notes. They tell you that their dog's name is Cindy May, write that down. That their kid is going to university in the fall, write that down. Start to collect the data that you are then going to put into your management system, so that later you can say, how's Jonathan doing in his first year of university? You haven't forgotten, like it's all there.
Irene,
Yeah.
when she presented, that's how she started that day too, right? She kind of asked everybody, how's everybody doing? And asked a couple of questions, but then she jotted everything down. And then as she presented, she was checking those things out.
Yeah.
And it made the presentation even more comprehensive, and it made you feel like she had even planned for some of those things.
Yeah.
But maybe she just knew to sneak them in
Yeah.
to check that box for you,
And that's
right?
exactly what to do when you're
Exactly.
in the presentation, for sure. Yeah. Cool. Anything else that you do?
I find that, so if there's a couple, generally one person will be dominant
Yes.
in the relationship. Typically it's the man, if it's a male-female relationship. But typically one person is more dominant. So I always make sure that I focus a period of time on the less dominant person. Because once you leave, they're going to talk about it together as decision makers.
Yeah.
And you don't want to insult anyone. So
Well, and you don't want anybody to feel ignored. Even though that person might not be speaking a bunch,
yeah.
doesn't mean that she doesn't have a say and doesn't, you
She
want
may have the
to.
ultimate say.
Right.
And the other thing might be too is he might say something and you could look at her and say, thanks, John, and Gail, do you agree? Do you feel the same way? And then ask the questions. Yeah, really good
It's
point.
stuff like John will talk and then I'll go, hey Gail, do you know how old your furnace is? And it's just to make, it's that kind of relationship building.
Yeah.
So you have to be really conscious of
Yeah, and paying attention to their energy level and their body language, and you kind of matching it. Like if they're really quiet, relaxed people, you don't hey, yeah, let's sell your house, woo woo. You want to kind of match what you're up against there. You can see me doing that, can't you, Joe?
I think there's another angle in what you're saying too, right? Is people also have different motivations. Like my wife is much more emotional in why or when we move, and I'm more like, so sort of show me the comparables.
Yeah. Numbers.
So it's like it allows both conversations to happen in the same space.
Well, you really suck people in that way because then you have to get them feeling as if they're friends of yours, because then they'll hire you. But I think with a listing presentation, it's really different. It's different when you're referred and you kind of know going in,
Yeah.
they're kind of gonna hire you.
Yeah.
As opposed to going in and you're up against a couple other agents. Like, it's kind of a whole different.
Well, you could still be referred and still be up against a couple of agents, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just going back, as we mentioned in the listing presentation, we are selling ourselves. So how I usually like to start it off is to talk to that a little bit. I'm part of a real estate family. I've been this is our history, this is our, we've sold this many, however you want to talk to that. It's good to let them know a little bit about who you are and why you're in real estate, and then get into what you might do for them in the sale of the house. I usually start with that, and then I say, so let's get to, let's move it along here, kind of whatever wording I use, but then we'll look at the comps usually, and then again, if they haven't told me what they think their house is worth, I might say it then. After looking at the comps here, what do you think your home is worth? Do you think that one compares better than the other? And then that usually gets them answering that question for you again, so that you can talk to that better. How long do you guys spend doing your listing presentations typically?
Oh gosh, minimum an hour. It always is an hour for me, which is like always wrong.
Yeah.
Apparently,
So
I'm always
Josh-
there for an hour.
Josh, even with the tour, I think he said it was 20 minutes.
Him, 5 minutes.
Five minutes on the
Yeah.
tour and 15 for the presentation. He's like, and then I get to sign contract.
Well, because you know what I think he's doing, like,
Happy
you
in
think
the
it's kind of
kitchen.
smart. I like that he's emailing a lot of the stuff ahead of time. And maybe he's talking to them quickly, I don't know, again, this is like a little video, who
Yeah,
knows
yeah,
exactly, it can't be the exact same time, same length every single
Right.
time. But I'm usually around an hour,
Yeah.
I am.
A few
I
hours,
think
but-
an hour's fine, I don't think we should be going over an hour.
Yeah.
I feel like the sellers start to lose interest. They're kind of like checking their clock, and you're like, okay, maybe I've talked to too many points today, Like for instance, Kat, I don't find out usually about furnace, age, and roof and all of those things in my listing presentation. That's an email that's sent afterwards where they can respond to, so that I have it all in one place. Because I find that if I get into all that, it can take like long. Some people you have to kind of rein in, because they'll want to tell you every little detail about every little thing. And depending on how much time you have that day and how much time you want to spend, maybe you're going to like indulge it a little bit, but you're also going to want to figure out a way to kind of rein that in, or let them know that they're going to be able to share all of the details with you via email. And just have that list sort of ready. Like that should be something that you have prepared, that you don't have to like create every single time you're going on an appointment, right? Just like, I'm going to get this out to you and you're going to get it back to me. So yeah, an hour. An hour is usually, because by the time you do you take longer or shorter in your listing appointments?
Mine ranges, gone anywhere from half an hour to over an hour sometimes.
Yeah. And again, depending on the people, right? Mm-hmm. So again, you just have to read the people. You don't want to feel like, if they want to kind of take it a little, if they want to be a bit more thorough, it's probably worth your time and investment to be a bit more thorough then with them. You don't want to make anybody feel like you don't have time with them, obviously. Okay, cool. Any other questions about that? Like, what else do you want to know about the listing presentation process, or what else would be helpful to you with all of that?
When I've had a couple of times they've asked, what should I do first, buy or sell? How do you handle that?
Well, again, maybe we would talk about the financial aspects, as we were talking before. Like, what do you owe on the house? What does it mean if you don't sell? La 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 la. I think, honestly, I think it go either way. Personally, like I have clients right now. All of them are keen to buy before they list, because a lot of them have younger families. They want to know where they're going to live. They're like, well, we need a place to live. And so we'll buy and then we'll sell. So I think you just have to find out, again, their motivation, figure out what it is, what's important to them about buying or selling first, and really sort of dial into that. Ask them flat out. So what's important to you about selling first versus buying, or vice versa?
Right.
And then that would probably help you manage that, navigate that a little better, right? What else? What else do you feel like you could do better in your listing presentation, or, you know, like I imagine you're going through the listing agreement and the section of commission comes up, right? How are you speaking to that, and have you had any challenges to it? Kat?
Part of my presentation is I go through all the things that I do and what's
Right,
included.
so your value proposition.
So I do that big
Mhm.
list of stuff, and I talk to some of the points of what I include into it. And then normally, before I go to the paperwork, I just say, you know, I charge 5%. This is what you get for it.
Yeah. So I don't say I charge 5% because to me, that makes it sound like you are charging the fee all for yourself. So what I say, I know you mean,
Yeah,
but just
yeah.
language-wise, I say the fee, oh my God, what do I say? I just blanked. No, I say the fee for service
Yeah.
is 5%. 2.5% is paid to the buyer brokerage, and 2.5% is paid to the listing brokerage. It's 5% total, and it's plus HST. They need to know that.
Always the
HST part.
Always.
And I always circle it, and I have them initial beside that as well. So even though they're initialing at the bottom of the page, what I feel like it's doing is it's like I've explained it to them, they get it, I'm getting them to initial it. Okay?
You should include that in the printed version of the listing agreement.
Pardon?
You should include the plus HST.
I know, they should. And I don't think,
Yeah.
do they?
They don't.
They don't, but I always add it in.
Weird. Yeah, I write it, and then I put a circle, and they sign it. Because you want to make sure that you're explaining it. Later, they could come to you and say, well, you never told me it was HST, like it didn't include HST. So just right there, number 2, side commission, circle it, HST, initial. Just cover your ass. It's worth it, right? Have you had any challenges with commission rates?
All the time.
Yeah, so what do you say?
So what I do is I break it down. I actually bring out a printout.
Yes,
What I get
awesome.
paid versus what the cooperating brokerage get paid.
Yep.
It's paid, and then I show them everything that we do. And then someone asks me, do you think it's fair that the cooperating brokerage should be getting paid more than what we're going to be doing? We're going to be staging, painting,
Yep.
et cetera.
Mhm.
I know other folks in my brokerage, what they do is they have a commission packages.
Yes.
So they'll,
Yeah, they'll tier it depending
They'll tier it,
on, yeah.
I think that's a pretty good idea.
I think it is too. I think though, personally, I think it'd be like just a lot of work to like go. Anyway, again, whatever suits you.
And wouldn't that be strange if you're just like, oh, that's not in your tier, I can't help you with that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That just seems weird to me. You want to
Yeah.
give your full.
Yeah, I feel like
customer
I'm
service.
shortchanging myself right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
here you
We
can
have
do this
to
for
remember,
4,
we're
40%,
worth it, right?
You can do this for 5.
Yeah.
Well, of course they're going to do
Yeah.
4.
Or you can do it for 6. There's the thing.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So it's actually way too upset.
Absolutely, you can. You can say the fee for service is 6%.
Yeah.
Which I've seen actually when I was at Family Reunion. There was a presentation on that, and they did a 6, a 5, and a 4, and
Yeah.
people always fall in the middle on the 5, which is kind of great. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
So
and
if
in
you
the
do a
US, their
higher one-
commissions are higher than ours. They're
Yeah.
like, they're like min commission is 6%, and it goes up to like 10, 11.
Who's this?
In the states,
Oh.
depending on which state you're in, the
Yeah.
commission paid is higher. So we're actually like on the low side considering. However, our homes are more expensive typically.
Now you have purple bricks coming out. So it's-
Pardon?
Now you
Oh,
have
purple
purple
bricks.
bricks competing.
Oh, that's just free, right?
It's comfy with a big advertising budget.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I know they've been doing tons of advertising. I think that we just have to remember, it's important in our listing presentation to really show them that your value, as I said, your value proposition, and speak to it confidently and authentically, because I think if you're really authentic, they're going to feel that, they're going to see that, and they're going to want to work with you. and yeah, have a couple scripts ready for how to handle somebody asking you to cut your commission. Because they might say, oh, well, so-and-so said that they'd do it for me at this price. So then you want to think, oh, okay, well, how am I gonna handle that objectively? Right?
So do you come across any client who is very specific for this commission part, and your competitor is also offering low commission for the same house? You two are bidding for the same house, and he is offering a lower commission, and you have your presentation for 5.
Mm-hmm.
So how you tackle it?
So it varies. I can think of a good situation where I was in a competition, so they were interviewing 4 realtors, and I did my listing presentation, and I could tell that I really connected with them, like that it went well, and the piece about commission came up. I went through it all, and they didn't ask me right away, and I said, so at the end I always say, do you have any questions for me that I haven't covered yet today? And it was a brother-sister situation where they were selling the parents' house. And he said, yeah, is there room with the commission? I said, well, explain to me what you mean. And he said, well, the 3 other agents that we've interviewed have all said that they'll do it at 4.5%. And quite honestly, I was caught off guard and I didn't really know what to say. And I said, you know what? Can I think about that and get back to you? Because I didn't want to say something that I was going to regret later. And that's also really good advice for a lot of things in real estate. If you don't know the answer, it's okay. Tell them that you're going to get the answer for them. And just say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that question at this very moment, but I'm going to get it for you and I'll be right back in touch, or whatever, right? And so then that way you have time to process or go get the answer that you need or whatever it might be. It's okay to not know everything. And what it shows then is that you're going to do the homework and do the real work to get them the correct answer rather than just say something because you feel you need to. Though I digress. So what I did was I went away and I thought about it and I thought, okay, well if they're all doing it, and I felt like we really, got along well. It's only half the point. I feel okay with offering it to you, and I did. Again, it's personal. You have to decide whether or not you want to or not. When you're in a listing appointment, they're interviewing you, but you're interviewing them as well, even with buyers, right? Like you want to make sure you want to work together. Sometimes you can get paired up with people, and it's the biggest, shittiest situation, and there's time suckers, and it's crappy, and it affects the rest of your business. So you want to think about that. So anyway, I did offer it to them in that circumstance, but I had them pay for the staging, and of course the paint and everything. Oh, I got the listing. And I had them pay for the staging and the everything else. That was Hunt Hill. So that's happened. Again, very recently, I was helping new clients buy a home, and I know that they have a house to sell. They had previously been working with it. Their home was listed for sale in 2017, and then they decided not to sell it. They were gonna it's a bungalow, they were gonna build up. Well, then they decided not to do that, and I ran into her in a grocery store, and that's how we connected, and then I signed them up as buyers, and we just bought a house. So now I know that they're going to they're going to need to sell their home, and I also knew that the listing agent that they were working with before was a 1%er. He charged 1% on the listing side and 2.5% on the buyer. And so I sat down and had a conversation with them, and I said, listen, because you're buying with me, I'd be happy to help on the commission side and on the listing side, but I absolutely can't do it at 1%, and here's why. And I went through my value proposition again, and then we signed it at 2%. So they felt good enough to move forward with me because, again, you're giving your proposition value, you're full service, you're not going to have to worry about anything, you're facilitating it all, so that's what you want to just, I guess, be really clear on. As I said, sometimes you're going to need to bend. You're going to need to say, okay, well, I'm going to do this and that. You want to fight for it. This is your hard-earned dollars that you need in your pocket, to support your life and your family. And you do work hard for it. So, I don't know. I think it's good to have script practicing around that kind of stuff. Yep.
Dave, Kelly shared something from Trish with me last week based around this exact topic.
Trish is great at scripts.
Yeah. Well, it says if they ask you to lower your commission, her reply is no. Is there any other questions?
Yeah,
And
that's literally what she says.
If they ask again, she then goes into like, hey, this is how the money gets spent. She breaks down like where different parts of the commission go. And then it says that she says, if I'm to get you the most amount of money for your listing and negotiate hard on your behalf, what does it tell you if I'm giving up my money so easily? Those people that are compromising their commissions, they're going to compromise your sale price too.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah,
Right.
she charges more as well.
I think you have to just be careful with
Right.
Because that, if I asked that question and somebody said no and then moved on, I'd be really pissed off.
Right.
Because it's.
That can also be Trish's approach.
The Trish is
Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you.
The agent.
In the situation to the seller.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to frame it around. If
I think
you're gonna
it's
give up that.
Like how much you're paying to the brokerage, you can show them all of those numbers. And you can say, and then after tax, after HST and income tax, this is actually what I'm earning. And then, because I think, so the same couple, I'm just going to share with you because it all just happened, and I was telling you, was trying to then negotiate my commission on the buy side because we were $25,000 difference from what they signed back to us at. And they were basically asking me to contribute that $25,000. So they were asking me to help purchase their home for them, right? After I've already given them a break on the listing side because they're buying, this was a very expensive home. So they're in her mind, she's plunking in the number and thinking, oh, you're making that much money on this listing. Well, God, you can give $25,000 of it back to me. No. So again, I talked about what Trish did and all that kind of stuff, and again, I negotiated hard about it. And I actually did joke with her later, like, now you can see how I'm going to handle your offers when they come in when you're listed.
Right. I think tying those two together is important.
Really important. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the thing, is people think that realtors are just like making that big number. They're thinking of us as just realtors. They're not thinking of us as businesses, which is what we actually are. We are businesses. We are running a business. There are many things that we have to pay for within our businesses, and that's something else that you can explain to them, right? Okay, so let me just make sure that I'm like covering the course material. This is my first time teaching it, so I'm just kind of winging it a little bit myself, but I figure it's always best to sort of just, we don't need to go through that, and that's it. I think we've pretty well talked to most everything. Is there anything else that like we haven't talked about that you came here to like learn that we could talk have an open discussion about? No?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a new agent.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
When you're talking about yourself, that's a big part of the pitch, right? What are some ways that someone inexperienced like myself can kind of speak to my value when maybe it's not as obvious to someone that has 20 years experience? Yeah, or a team, or that kind of thing, yeah. I think that you can actually speak in team terms. They always say that about KW because we're like a very, we are a team. We help each other out. We like to share our information. We don't keep it close to our chest. We're like, the better you can do, the better we can all do type thing. So you can talk about that, and you can talk about other people on your team, like your stager, your lawyer, your mortgage broker, your handyman, your contractor. Like those people are all on your team, right? So you're going to speak to that and talk maybe a little bit more about the support you have behind you. Like the people leverage. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You could use your brokerage stats as well. So that if your brokerage is strong in a specific area and you have a presentation there, my brokerage is the number one or whatever. We've sold this many homes.
And if you know the area, you can say I grew up here, I know.
Yeah.
Roll the cafe, whatever.
Yeah, those are all great suggestions.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then it just kind of gives you a little bit more confidence when you're sitting there across the table from them, speaking about it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. Good question.
Biggest thing is confidence, I think. Delivering it with confidence goes a long way.
Yeah. And for me, what I really had to learn, and I probably didn't even think about that today, but I can speak speak very quickly. Have I been speaking very quickly? Sometimes I do, and it's not because, usually because of nerves, it's just because you're excited to share or you want to whatever. But it's good, like what I always do, and I honestly feel that this works, when you're in the car and you're on your way over to meet the client, speak out loud to yourself. Courtney, you are going to rock this listing and presentation. You know the information you need to know. You're well prepared. That's, by the way, the best piece of advice. Just be really well prepared. As I said, know everything before you get there. And speak out loud. Like pep talk yourself. Like do some woohoos if you need to, or whatever it might be, or play a song after you talk to yourself that like gets you going. Because they say that like highly successful people talk to themselves out loud all the time, you know, or if they want to create a habit, they talk to themselves out loud about it, so that they can, because when you hear it back, you're actually going to make it happen. So when you're in the car and you're driving, just say, Karen, I'm going to kick this listing presentation in the butt. I'm going to be so good. They are going to sign with me tonight because I know what I'm doing and I'm awesome at my job. I know it might sound cheesy, but trust me, it works. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, let's say you know you're going up against
Yes.
another brokerage or whatnot. At the end of your speech, do you say, okay, you ready to sign? Or how do you, are you ready to sign? Like, what's your lead in?
Yeah. I think if I knew that I was in competition, I would still ask the question. What my mom always used to say, my mom would say, she would offer the paperwork and say, okay, so let's get going on this. And they'd say, maybe whether it's in competition or not, maybe they're humming, you're like, we're not sure, we need some time. And then I was like, okay, so that we need to figure this out. If I need her actual wording, I'll let you guys know afterwards, but she was just going over it with me the other day, something along the lines like, this concerns me. That's something like that. And they'll be like, well, why? And she says, well, it means that I haven't answered or gone over everything thoroughly enough for you. So what is it that I missed that I can help clarify? Yeah. And then they'll say, well, no, nothing, it's fine, whatever. And then you say, okay, great, well, let's sign the paperwork. Realistically, let's talk about it in realistic terms. If they've decided as a couple they're sleeping on it, they're sleeping on it. What are you going to do? Force feed it down their throat? No. You're going to let them think about it. But then, maybe what you're going to do is the next morning, you're going to drop off a thank you note. Thank you for the opportunity. We really enjoyed meeting with you and so-and-so. I'm super excited to help you sell your home. And I'm available anytime, give me a call. Just go the extra mile that the other agent isn't going to do.
So you essentially just, review the listing agreement.
Yes,
and then be like, okay, let's sign. That's just
so the paperwork is the thing that I get to last
in
my presentation. I've gone through everything else. We know what the value of your home is. I know what you want to sell it for. I think we can achieve that price. Done. Fine. Okay, great. So I'm going to review the paperwork with you. I always start with working with a realtor. It's an easy form. It's very easy to explain. It takes 2 seconds. Done. Sign that. Or, I show them all the documents and then we sign. So I show that and then I say, okay, so here's the listing agreement. And I explain what the listing agreement is. And then I show them the MLS data form that they sign, and I say that form is what the MLS listing looks like. So we're just making sure that we're collecting the correct information about your home. And I say, okay, so let's get this going. Let's sign up so that we can get to work. Just be yourself, be however you would, authentically say it that way.
And then you get them sign a data form, even if you don't go through all the specifics that you talked about, that you would follow up afterwards.
Yeah, so I'm going to cheat a little bit in that area.
Just
being honest.
I do have to sign that later.
You do, okay.
Yeah,
well,
So is that a full listing then, if you don't have the rest of it? Do you have a full listing sign when you leave there?
Yeah, but I do something which is probably not good. I don't like to finalize the price until very close to listing day because
I keep the price blank all the time.
Exactly.
And then I type it on
or
afterwards.
changing or whatever. So I usually get them initial beside the blank price and a blank date.
I don't give
blank
blank date
comfortable with
usually.
Because it's if you can't find it, find a date because it's figuring out when your photographer can come and stuff like that. So usually it's all signed, all initialed with 2 blank parts.
I usually leave the price blank with it.
But the data form, is that just all blank then?
Yeah,
I don't do the data form.
You-
The data form I do over time.
The data form does not, the listing agreement on its own stands.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the data form is more just
I just
like,
get them to sign it
Yeah.
to get it out of the way, and then what I do is once I have the MLS draft ready, I send it to them for approval.
mm,
And I say, please read through this with a fine tooth comb, make sure all the information is correct, and if anything needs to be changed, I'll do that before we go live.
You deal with seniors a lot?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's face to face.
we
Gotta
should
show
do
you
it
everything.
on the same package
Yeah.
that's listed, but I don't do the data for the.
And then, of course, you have the ones that are even senior and that are very excellent on computers, and
Yeah.
so it's just, again, knowing what your client wants, yeah.
I also say just from that point, like, at the end, I usually kind of like butter people up slightly a little bit. I'm like, wow, this has been like really great. You guys are such an interesting couple.
Mhm.
Like it would be real, like I feel really, it would be really enjoyable for me to work with you because I like to work with people that, you know, it goes both ways.
Mhm.
So I usually butter up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Any other questions that we haven't hit? I think we're still under the allotted time, but that, I'm sure nobody minds. Right?
So I need a suggestion. So I was talking to one of my sphere of influence, and she was like unhappy with how prices are in her neighborhood. She wants me to go and check how the market is now, because she thinks that she bought it at high price and now it's not that much.
Mhm.
So I did some comparisons, I did some data crunching, and I think that market is up for her neighborhood. Like how I need to like drive her to like for a next meeting and
Yeah, call her and just say, hey, I've done the research that I told you that I would do.
yeah.
I would love to review it with you. Are you free on this day or this day at this time?
Okay.
Don't give her anything on the phone.
Nothing,
No.
no message, nothing.
No, don't give her the information on the phone. Don't text it to her. Don't email it to her. You
Okay.
want that appointment. The appointment is what you need. Because that's when you're gonna sign them up.
That's a
Specific
tough thing
time,
not to do.
specific day.
What'd you
Very-
say?
Specific time, specific
Yeah,
day.
say-
Get two options.
yeah.
Thursday at 4,
Or
Friday at 2.
Tuesday, yeah, exactly.
Don't say, when are you free? Because she'll be like, oh, I don't know, never, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
When did she buy? Last year?
Last year.
And she wants to sell, or she's just curious?
She is curious. She wants to know. She hasn't disclosed the end motive to me. She just wants to know how is the marketing.
So when
handled.
she asked you this, did you ask
Is it
her,
worth it?
great, do you want this information because you're planning to sell? Or is this just because you're curious?
I haven't asked it.
Yeah,
Oh,
ask
that's a
her.
big one, yeah.
And then you know what, you can still help her and do the work for her, but then you're gonna put her in your database manager and you make sure that you're following up with her so that when she is ready to sell, she's gonna call you.
But it's true, if you're not like superly busy right now and you want face-to-face conversation, like you said, go over there, talk, get used to talking to clients in their homes. But when you start to get busier, like the last 2 days, I'm on like people calling me
Mhm.
constantly, like, thinking of renting, should I sell it, or like all this kind of stuff. Then you'll get to have a feel of like, they just want to know how much their home's worth for fun.
Okay.
They're not actually, you know what I mean? And then that you can like send, because it's good information and like, they'll keep you on top of mind. Once a year, you're kind of supposed to be going through all your clients and saying, this is what your home is worth now.
Yeah,
Just
we
as a
send an
touch
anniversary
point,
report
just as a
every
touch
time.
point.
It's a tough thing to do, think about last year though.
Last year, they won't make any money, probably
Yeah,
with
yeah.
land transfer tax and real
Fees.
estate, yeah,
Yeah.
real estate fees and stuff like that.
Well, it all depends on where you bought. but
Oh, yeah,
anyway.
sure.
Yeah. So yeah, ask more questions.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll not share anything.
Questions are the key to our success in this. I think, listening and asking questions. Listening and asking questions. Yeah. Do you have any other questions or anything? No? Okay.
So Courtney, can you send this checklist so that?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I will, do you have a card on you? If you can give me your card, I can email it to you. If anybody else wants it.
Yes,
Give me
please.
your business card and I'll email it to you. I can give you everything. I can give you the strategic selling plan, the buyer's handbook. What else? This. We do have 3-page pamphlet thing that we give to, and it's somebody was talking about testimonials.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's about us and testimonials, basically. So it's, again, a good little value add to this sucker as well.
You ask for testimonials after it's.
Oh, yeah, and you do it when they're happy and excited and everything went really well. Yeah, straight away. It's part of your like follow-up. So after the sale's closed, let's say, they get an email on closing, well, they get a phone call on closing day, of course. Sorry, before it's closed. This is the in between, the pending term, okay? So they get the email, next steps, if you need to tell your mortgage lender and your lawyer, blah, blah. So I have all these emails that I just have ready, and I just have to edit their name, the address, maybe a few other things, and then that's it. And then attaching their agreement of purchase and sale and files to that email. And then there's another email follow-up, which is all about testimonial and how my business is based off of referral. And it's really important to me, and I would very much appreciate. Again, I have it in an email, and then they're always like, no problem, would be happy to. And you just send them the link to wherever you want them to post the referral. All they have to do is click it, write it, done. You want to make it easy for them. Just say, like, just write a little something about your experience with me. That'd be really awesome. Yeah. Good. I hope you guys felt like you learned something today.
That was awesome.
You had a good conversation. Yeah, I'm always available if you ever have any questions, you need any help with anything. I'm usually over there in the corner office or somewhere on my phone. So reach out anytime, and I'll send all this information to whomever wants it. And yeah, good luck. Make 2019 a kick-ass year, folks. Does everybody have a business plan? Yeah? Good.
You just made 2018 one.
You are, but you've adjusted it slightly? Yeah. It's good to have a plan. When you have a plan, you get shit done, right?
I need prosperity, as does that. At the beginning of the session.
Oh, yeah, me. Okay, so what I'm doing right now, so I have a coach, I think I'm Carl, thank you for your clinic.
What's that?
And she's been helping me sort of.
Yeah, because I can't give out my cards.
I'm
hesitant to give out cards.
the business that I run is, thank you, primarily based off of 100 referrals, but then of course the database. So there's a lot of
I did notes.
a lot of
I did look at
things.
Oh,
Could you send me more? Is it too much
But
to ask?
I will, I'll send it,
right
I'll send
now, it's my goal to see
no
in my database.
Tomorrow, 11 year.
Yeah, that's what I felt was.
30 minutes.
11:30.
So I'm calling.
No, 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Or a little bit.
I don't know, 500 people that I'm doing interaction.
Let's do 11. Because, if you can.
No, I'll be there at guess 11 minutes.
And we'll learn some
When are we practicing for the scripts?
That's what I mean. So if we do 11 to 11:30 scripts, and we'll also separate some
Thanks, Courtney.
that we want to
Thank you,
really
yeah.
focus on.
You'll see right here.
And then while we drive, we'll do those ones. But we'll do 30 minutes focused, and then while we tour open houses, we'll do some.
For a referral.
And then that way it's
Because
not,
it's like, it is like the
It's not
thing
just
that
like-
you're gonna forget to do.
you know,
It's like such an
we
easy
can like
question.
play with it and
Yeah.
get comfortable
You know, who
with
do
it.
you know right now that's looking to buy or sell? I would
I'll-
love to
I'll
know. Like,
need
you're
one
not-
script,
you're not available- you're
But
not planning to do that right
I'll
now,
make some
maybe
modification
you'll-
into it, and then we'll practice tomorrow.
Sure.
And you also can come up with your script. You can
Yeah, I'm
see-
gonna pull some of the like
But
kind of
always ask for it.
top 5.
Because then maybe 2
Like
days later,
common
they hear some friends having a
situations.
real estate conversation, they're like, oh, shit.
Start with those
I was
ones.
thinking of Courtney, she just asked me
Hopefully, I got an email
for
from
a
Rico
referral,
today,
now I
so
can refer
hopefully
you.
it's
You should call Courtney, like that kind of thing, right?
hopefully it's done.
So staying top of mind, so yes, that's
You
my
get
mission
your
right now, is
license
to
today.
do that, and I will
We'll
fully
go for a
admit
beer.
that the first couple days when I was getting back into like.
I don't drink,
calling
yeah.
friends, it was like, again, pep talk.
Well, this year.
Courtney,
I'll
you are
drink,
going,
I'll drink
anyone
for
else
2
who
next
is
year.
the day before, I plan out who I'm calling. So it's, or at least what letter of the alphabet that I'm starting at, or whatever, so that I'm not the next morning sitting there flailing like, oh, who am I gonna call? Oh God, and then you take forever trying to figure out who to call, but then you never make the phone call. You know what I mean? So planning the day before, who you're gonna call. And it is true what they say, just pick up the phone and call, because if they don't want to talk to you, that's the worst thing that could happen. Call the next number, right?
Who's your coach?
My coach is through KW, KW Matt's coach. Her name is Tara Allen, and she is from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She's awesome. Finally actually met her face-to-face at family reunion. And I will say 100%, a coach has been a massive game changer to my business.
How long have you had her for?
I've had her for almost a year.
Almost a year, okay.
Like huge game changer.
20%, 30%?
Just lots.
So
More,
like, Brian asked
like
me,
50%.
are you gonna get a coach? And I'm like, you're my coach.
Yeah.
Like to start, because I'm new, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I didn't think I needed to like invest in
Yeah.
that right away, because
You
I'm on
know
a
what,
team.
though, I
for a
think you
reason.
should. I do. I think coaching
Yeah.
is worth the investment. There's different coaching tools and people you can use too, like MAPS coaching. I'm a mastery client, so it's weekly for 30 minutes. It's roughly $1,400 a month that I pay for the coaching. There are other coaches where you can do, I know even with MAPS, that I think they do it bi-weekly, and it's maybe more group focused and it's less expensive. Then there's other coaches that aren't necessarily within our program, you're not within our brokerages, but that also do fantastic coaching. And what it is it keeps you accountable. You're paying for it, so you're gonna do it, because otherwise you're like mad at yourself, like you said earlier. If you don't do it, you're like,
I made a mistake of doing a free consultation with Tom Ferry,
Oh, yeah.
and they call me every day for like the last 4 months.
and?
They're working on their sales pitch.
I give them, like, they called me on New Year, so I'm gonna be on vacation, so maybe call me back in the January. Should call, what better time than now, at the end of January, what I told you.
Yeah. They're really on it.
They're on it.
Every day they call me.
And
I
they're-
know their
I haven't
numbers.
had a call since.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I haven't
okay.
had a call since.
Maybe I just gotta put my foot down.
Yeah, or block the number.
Yeah.
Or you're obviously not interested in that line of coaching, but there could be another.
It potentially down the road.
Yeah.
I just decided after I spoke to them and heard their tears that I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Oh, and also, that's the thing too. If you don't want to have the financial obligation right now, that's what I spoke earlier about having a peer partner. Like, that's really good. But what you have to do when you choose a peer partner is you don't choose somebody who you're going to call up and shoot the shit with for 30 minutes, right? Your peer phone call should be 10 minutes long, and it should be, hey Joe, it's Courtney, it's Monday morning, 9 o'clock, it's our peer time to talk. So here are my goals for the week. I'm going to make this many contacts, I'm going to go on this many appointments, I'm going to go to this many open houses, and I'm going to do this. And personally, I'm going to exercise 4 times, and I'm going to have a date with my husband, or something like that, whatever it might be. So then you know, I've written it down, I've emailed it to you. You do the same thing, you say, okay, great, get after it. And then you check in with each other periodically throughout the week. How's it going? And any obstacles that I can help you with? And just like having that person that you can lean on. The other important thing about choosing a peer partner is you want to choose somebody who's at a similar level that you are at and is looking to go to the same level that where you want to be. Because if somebody's like, oh, I'm fine, like I don't really want, and they're maybe not all that interested in being like the top agent or super successful, but you are, then that would not be the right partner for you. So before coaching, do that. Get a peer partner. Go to all the educational things that are offered, and just become the expert that we all need to be in this industry. And again, as I said earlier, if you don't know the answer to something, don't just give them an answer to give them an answer, because you can get yourself up shit's creek doing that. You want to make sure that you're giving them good information, and they'll appreciate your honesty. Yeah. Yes.
I was at an open house this weekend, and this guy like comes up to me like right in my face, and he's like, "Do you know rentals in this area really well?" And I was just like, "No." I'm like, I don't focus on usually downtown. Like, however, I get you whatever you need. Is that what I'm supposed to say? Like, do I say no? Like, I'm not?
Yeah, you can just say, you say, actually, you know what, I'm not that familiar with rentals in this neighborhood. It's not the area that I focus my business on primarily. However, I can do some research and I can figure that out for you. But first, how about you tell me why you're curious?
Oh, because we already talked about this. He was an investor. He wanted to renovate the whole place.
Okay,
I'm like, well, how many bedrooms do you want upstairs and downstairs? Depends how you renovate it. It depends on the you know, what you're gonna get, because some go for 3,800, some are going for 21, you know what I mean?
Right,
For 3 beds, so.
so
it
you knew
depends.
his motivation already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I said, I was
I
just
think
like,
the thing that you have to be really cautious of when people ask questions is you don't want to just be like giving your time and your energy and your expertise away for like nothing.
yeah.
If he's asking you, you know, do you know the rentals in this neighborhood and whatever, then you want to say, yes, sure, I can get that information. Are you working with a realtor?
She wasn't.
Okay, great. So how about I'll do some homework. We'll meet for a coffee. It'll take roughly 30 to 45 minutes, and we'll go over everything. And then I'll happily help you with the process.
So do you think, so this morning, because you know, you follow up with all your open house people, I followed up and I was like, I just gave it an approximate. I was just like, you can rent anywhere from 21 to 27 in the basement from blah, blah, blah. Do you want to get together for coffee and chat? But I gave them sort of the information.
You're not even.
Yeah. So I would first ask for the appointment and give him the information at the appointment.
Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise you're giving it to him and then he's gonna say, okay, great, now I know.
But I mean, I just gave them like a general range and like, it was just like, there was literally like $500 or $600 difference, which is a lot for a rental.
Yeah,
So I mean, I just gave them a general idea and I was like, if you want to talk further, like we could chat.
yeah,
Because I just didn't want to be like, I'll follow back up with you and let you know, and then call him and be like, I got that information, but you're gonna have to come sit down with me to hear it. Do you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
I kind of gave him a little bit of something, and then if he
that's fine then. I
He's
mean, you can
actually-
do what you feel.
I also don't want to drive all the way to Scarborough, waste my time if he's not really interested. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, again, then maybe it's worth having that phone call and
Yeah.
understanding the motivation and getting more information so that you can help them better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just like never know with people at open houses if they're not working with a realtor, if they are working with a realtor, even though they tell you they're not, and
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. I know, it's tricky, the open houses, for sure. Definitely.
What was the property?
On Warden, 114 Warden.
Like,
Or if someone wants to buy it.
You never know. I'll look at it.
Yeah, nice. Good, guys. Well, again, as I said, I'm available if you ever need to have any questions or want anything else, anything, I'm happy to help.
Great.
Did you want me to give you my business card?
Sure, no.
Okay, I'm just gonna grab it, because I didn't bring it in.
So you're done your 5 course?